Are you ready to turn your dreams into a reality? Then you need to join the next round in the Dream Bigger Mastermind. Get on the waitlist today to secure early access and an exclusive bonus when enrollment opens. It's time to manifest your best life yet. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and for listening to another episode of Breathe More. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about self-forgiveness because this is coming up in my Dream Bigger Mastermind. It seems like on a weekly basis. And maybe you are struggling with it as well. Maybe you're not even aware that that's the thing that you need in order for you to feel more at peace, in order for you to trust yourself more, in order for you to move on. I also find that women tend to be so much harder on themselves. I'm saying this statement based on my clients because I do work with men as well, and they just seem to have a different approach on how they navigate things. But with my clients who are women, we really beat ourselves up. We hold ourselves to this really high standard. And I find that it just prevents us from doing whatever it is that we want to do next, from going after our goals. What ends up happening is that we stay in the same place. And I have found that there's a lot of layers to forgiving yourself and maybe why you're not forgiving yourself. So I wanted to talk about my approach and how I guide my clients through self-forgiveness and also highlight some negative things that come out of not forgiving yourself, not helpful things. I don't really like to label things as positive or negative. My approach to life now is coming from a place of neutrality and not judging or labeling, rather just viewing everything as an experience that I can learn from and grow from. So going back to the topic of self-forgiveness, I'll start by using myself as an example. So when I was in my early 20s, actually I was 18, my very first relationship was not a healthy relationship. Ended up becoming very abusive, both emotionally and then towards the end, even physically. And throughout this relationship, which lasted much longer than I would have liked to, there were all these different feelings and thoughts around it. Mainly shame, because I viewed myself, and still do, as an intelligent woman. And I would tell myself things like, I should know better. Why can't I leave? I was trying to reach for support. I was vulnerable and shared with my best friend at the time, my current circumstances, and I was made to feel like it was all my fault. There was a lot of shaming, and it just quickly became, I realized or felt, that it was unsafe to talk about this topic. And so I felt very stuck, and it was just really unhealthy on so many layers. And for so long, finally, when I was able to break free from this relationship, I never spoke about this. And in hindsight, that first relationship that I had, which was a really traumatic and abusive experience, had me feel unconsciously that I couldn't trust myself to pick a good partner. And again, I wasn't conscious of this, but because of that, I remained single for a long time. I would be non-committal, like casually dating, but I didn't want to become someone's girlfriend again. And then in the end, I ended up manifesting a partner that was the complete opposite. So I had experienced like two extremes that weren't necessarily great. And so I didn't speak of this forever. Actually, I finally started to open up and I forgave myself when the TV show from HBO, Big Little Lies, came out. And if y'all watched it, or if you didn't, spoiler alert, but Nicole Kidman's character, she's a very successful lawyer, and her husband in the show was abusive, but nobody had no idea. And she started to confide in her friend, Reese Witherspoon. Anyways, when I saw that scene, when I saw all of this unfold on a TV show, I was, for the first time, able to be compassionate and forgive my 20-year-old self. And as I'm recalling this, I'm getting emotional thinking about, wow, for so long, I have been so hard on my 18-year-old self, on my early 20-year-old self that didn't know anything. I mean, knew some things, but it was my very first relationship. I was so innocent. And I didn't know how our unconscious mind attracts and brings into our life what it's been exposed to. And so my parents' relationship, they were still together, been together for 45 years, and it's very dysfunctional. It's not healthy. There's emotional abuse, there's addiction. And so unconsciously, I attracted as my first relationship someone that needed a lot of help. He was not mentally well. And my savior self, my little inner child, felt that love, or she had interpreted or grew up viewing that love was being in a difficult relationship, and the woman tries to save her partner. And so it took a long time for me because I guess I didn't address it or didn't have the guidance, or it just felt unsafe for so long to really address it and to connect and reflect on, why am I still beating myself up for that relationship? It wasn't even my fault. Again, it was just an experience. And yes, there were painful moments, and then there were beautiful moments as well. And I've learned and grew from it. And so once I finally released that guilt and shame and me still criticizing that younger self, I felt so free. I felt like since then, my approach in how I show up in relationships is very different. And the last relationship that I had started to resemble a little bit like emotional abuse and controlling. And my 20-year-old self immediately got activated. She became shut down. She became scared. And adult me, current me, immediately set that boundary. No, we are not going to allow this to happen again. And I ended the relationship right then and there. No second chances. Like, no, I'm not going to go there. And so I'm sharing all of this because it takes some work to get to the place of healing and forgiving yourself and connecting with that younger you. And then also recognizing that maybe who you are today isn't the person that you were 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or maybe even a year ago, because I'm assuming that most of you listening to this podcast, you're interested in personal development. You've probably done therapy. You are on a journey of expansion and growth. And so my assumption is that you are not the same person that you are today when that incident that you're still beating yourself up with. And so who you are today is going to handle things differently. And so I've been helping my clients in my Dream Bigger Mastermind to recognize that. And we go through a series of exercises and practice and healing experiences to connect with that younger self, to recognize they did the best that they could at that time of their life. Perhaps they didn't know better. Their intention wasn't necessarily, most likely, to cause harm or to be in that type of situation. And so once they connect with that younger self, there's so much more compassion that comes forth, the self-love and the self-forgiveness. And so from there, they're able to move forward and start to show up differently in their life, start to take different actions, change the stories, the way that they've been describing themselves in a different way. Another example that's coming to mind is a client, several clients actually, who continue to tell themselves, I'm not good with finances. I'm not good with money. When I was younger, I racked up all this credit card debt. I never saved. Now I feel so behind in my finances. And again, there's so much shame. There's so much guilt. They keep beating themselves up. And so when I have them connect with their 20-year-old self or their younger self, whenever this situation happened around racking up a lot of credit card debt, they were able to shift their perspective and have a different view on what actually happened. Were they truly being irresponsible? Maybe they didn't know how to act differently. Maybe all they were mirrored was this. And so perhaps their younger self was just playing out what they saw when they were younger, even younger, children with their parents, with their community. And then a lot of times when doing this exercise, they're able to also recognize the things that they're proud of that they did when they were younger. For maybe that part of them was a hustler and just figured it out, was really courageous, and took steps that now they're like, whoa, I don't even think today I would do something like that. And so thanking that younger self for being a big part of who they are and where they are today in their life. And that's so healing. Their whole energy shifts. They become softer physically, their body. The anxiety, the worry, the constant loops and stories and judgment, self-criticism in their mind starts to quiet. And then again, they're able to see things differently, present day. They're able to take different actions. They're able to seek guidance so that the same thing isn't repeated if that's not what they want. So it is possible. And that's my invitation to all of you to reflect on, what are you still holding on to? What punishment towards yourself? That criticism, the lack of trust because of something that you did in the past. And inviting you to connect with that you who maybe you're still right now embarrassed about the actions, and inviting you to talk to that part of you as if we're a person. Like, how would you, person that you care about and that you wouldn't treat so badly, how do you talk to your best friend? You probably have a lot more compassion and understanding than how you talk to yourself. And take a moment as well to think about, how is that self-criticism? How is still holding on to that shame, that embarrassment, that guilt helping you? Is it keeping you hypervigilant? That's also natural, by the way, where our brain has evolved in a way to be hypervigilant of mistakes. Because back in the day, making a mistake was life or death. But that's not necessarily the case currently. So it's important to catch yourself and start to create those pauses when your brain goes to, oh my gosh, I made this mistake. It's the end of the world. Is it really the end of the world? Is your life really over? Or can you just acknowledge, all right, I did it this way. It's not how I want to do it in the future, but I've learned from it. I'm forgiving myself and I'm going to move on. I feel like another reason why people don't forgive themselves or they remain to be really hard on themselves is because there's this fear that if you're not hard on yourself, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to work as hard as if you were really pushing yourself or being really critical. But again, is that added pressure actually helping you? Or is it activating other trauma responses like procrastinating, avoidance? Is it making you feel anxious? Is it making you doubt, second guess yourself? And so it feels really difficult to make a decision. And so I've already mentioned some of the positive things that come from forgiving ourselves. Let's talk about a few more. First of all, you're releasing yourself from those past experiences, those chains that you still feel are tying you down, keeping you stuck. And you're able to leave what happened in the past and show up in your life today with what's actually happening, with the present, with the person that you are. Again, recognizing that you're not the same person. You have different tools. You have different people that you can seek support and guidance from. And is that really something so terrible that you did this mistake or something that you regret? Or can we just neutralize it and say, well, that happened. I'm not proud of it. I'm feeling disappointed, but I forgive myself. And when we do that, it allows us to, because we're in the present moment, to feel better, to have more energy, to be able to concentrate better, to feel happier. There's research that shows that people who practice self forgiveness on a regular basis are happier, are healthier. There's this forward movement in their life, in their energy. They feel a sense of freedom, a lightness. And that's not to say that if you truly made a mistake that was horrible, that hurt people, and you did it intentionally, obviously we're not encouraging that. But again, how is it helping you to continue beating yourself up over that? Take the steps to ask for forgiveness, not just for yourself, but to others, to take responsibility for your actions. That is so healing and it's so empowering, and it's healing for other people as well when we do that. It strengthens our relationships. It allows us to create new boundaries and to communicate them. It also helps us to feel more confident and, again, to go back to the self-trust and just maybe making the commitment, the decision, the intention of, I'm going to do better. Now that I've experienced this, now that I went through this, that I quote unquote allowed this to happen, next time I'm going to do better. And that's the only thing that we can do, right? It's like in this present moment, when you're having to make a choice, a decision, when you're in a situation, trusting that you're going to do your best in that moment, given on the resources, the information, the knowledge, and where you are in your healing today. And knowing that that's more than enough. I hope you found this episode helpful and that you're able to start to reflect on what you're still holding on to that's holding you back, that's weighing you down, that's making you feel bad. And again, inviting you to take some time to forgive yourself for those mistakes, for those actions that you're feeling ashamed and guilty of, and trusting that today and in the future, you're going to do better. And if you need support doing this, the next round of the Dream Bigger Mastermind is going to start towards the end of February. So make sure you get on the wait list so that you can be the first to know when doors open for enrollment and get additional information of what you can expect. For those of you who have some idea of what my mastermind is, or maybe you have participated in the past, I'm changing a lot of things in my Dream Bigger Mastermind, and I already have started to implement it in my current round that started in the fall. My intention in the Dream Bigger Mastermind, in addition to helping you manifest your goals and your dreams and encouraging you to dream bigger, I want to help you establish a strong foundation so that you do feel confident, so that you believe in yourself and you trust in yourself and you take aligned action with ease to realize, to manifest those desires. But before we're able to do that, we got some healing to do, some digging work. And so today's episode is an example of what we've been doing in the Dream Bigger Mastermind. So I hope you found it helpful, and I look forward to connecting with you real soon. Have a wonderful day.